Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the dance. I hope you enjoyed our interlude. This is the DANE authentication for network clients everywhere. I am one of your working group chairs, Wes Hardiker, and with me is Joey Salazar, who is the other working group chair. The mailing list link is there, and we will move forward with our agenda for the day. It should be light, but we've added a few other things since the agenda was originally published as last-minute requests. I'm sure all of you have seen the note well a bunch of times in your life, if not a bunch of times this week. As a reminder, you should probably consult your lawyer, because I'm not your lawyer, and you should talk to them about what this means. But generally, it means that anything you say can be used in the future. For page 2, we have the fact that the IETF is controlled by a bunch of BCPs. There's a whole how the standardization process works. These are probably all the ones that most people should be familiar with about how the IETF functions, including copyrights and anti-harassment procedures and patents and everything like that. We have a code of conduct guidelines. As a reminder, you should treat everybody with respect, speak slowly, and limit the use of slang. Dispute ideas using reasoned arguments, not more colorful language. Using engineering judgment and finding the best solution for the whole of the IETF and contributing to the ongoing work of the IETF. And as a reminder, everybody should be wearing masks today. The IETF116 does require everybody to wear masks. If you are sitting next to somebody that is not wearing a mask, could you please remind them, Ken? There's a few people around. We will revisit that for IETF 117 is the current conclusion. Thank you. This is the dance working group information page. We have a data tracker, of course. We have a mailing list, and we have 3 drafts that we are currently considering, and we'll talk more about those in a minute. The session is being recorded. Please, everybody, do scan the QR code. We get a size of a room depending on how many people scan the QR code. So if you think that this room is about right, then everybody should scan it. If you want to be packed into a really small room in the future, then don't scan it. So today's agenda, this was the working group chair's introduction. Thank you, Corey and Michael, for being willing to take notes. Michael's actually not in the room. He's attending in another room. We greatly need note takers, so anybody that wants to help out, the note-taking link is in the agenda. It is a multi-use tool, so everybody can help and contribute. I'm sure Corey would like more help. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into sort of the last call results for the 2 dance documents that were recently went through working group last call. We'll do some updates on the dance architecture with Ollie and Michael, and then there's an open mic section. This is actually, there's a couple of things that we're going to bring up and discuss because a couple of people have come forward with some last minute items, and we have plenty of time today, so there's some extended use cases that we'll go over. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joey, who's going to talk about the last call summary.
All right, so first of all, we did receive quite a lot of feedback for both the drafts. So thank you everybody that was involved and that took some time to give some notes and pointers and suggested text and questions. So a brief summary of the things that we got. Thank you. For the client ID draft, there was a request that it should say what type of RR content it expects. Then, well, of course, there you can read the bullet points, right? So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about the background and context that I remember for it. But like those are like the summarized bits. So then there were also some requests for like a reference check for the framing extensions that are involved, like clarify if it's gonna be RFC 6066 versus RFC 8446. Also do a reference check for the supported TLS version, right? And the architecture document, like if it's going to be referenced in the client ID draft or not. And I forgot to take off my mask. No wonder it was getting hard to breathe. Sorry about that. Whew. So Yeah, so check if the architecture document is going to be referenced or not. And then also there was a request for clarity on the client name limit definition, like how it was defined, if I remember correctly. Also, people wanted like a use case for mixed environments in the terms of the certificate authorities. This was quite a lengthy conversation. Then let's see. Then I think some clarification on the decode error alert and a close down of the connection when it's using an empty DANE client ID extension as defined, well, and the way that it was defined, right? And then there was also a suggestion for more stiff requirements to improve the interoperability and reduce code complexity. So does anybody have any comments, questions, complaints about the client ID draft? If no, then let's go to the next one. All right. So for the client auth draft, one thing that was required was to add domain examples, also for the use of wildcards and Dane TA. Let me see. There was some discussion about the potential need to encode the transport label. This was highlighted by Michael Richardson. There was also a request for clarity on the security considerations from those RFCs that are there, as well on the exception that allows for the should keyword when using the X509 certificate, and whether it should be changed to a must. There were some smaller word suggestions, and nits. And yeah, like the conclusion is similar for both, right? That an update is needed, and we're waiting for that, but they're both ready to go. And on that note, the next slide, please. Yeah, we can just expect an update from the others sometime soon, right, Shimon? Wink, wink.
If you see an author, bug them to update the drafts. Is that it? Okay, so that, thank you. Anybody have comments about the last call? Otherwise, we will push that forward as soon as the authors are ready, and we'll send it to IETF-wide last call and all the next steps that go along with it. After we remember which buttons to push in the data tracker, because it keeps changing on us. After that, we are going to talk about updates to the dance architecture. We had an interim meeting in, was it January or February? Anyway, where we went through the list of open issues and had some good discussion. It was a smaller group than this, and Michael and Ollie hopefully will talk about it. I don't know if Ollie is here, and Michael said he was falling asleep. So Michael, you may be on deck if you're still here. Is either one of them here? They both asked for agenda time.
Let's just keep in mind that the time zone difference also made it a bit difficult for people from the West, but.
Yeah, unfortunately, Michael just wrote us a bit ago and said he was falling asleep. So he may have just fallen asleep because it was literally 5 minutes ago. With that, then, this will be an even shorter meeting, but we do have 2 extra any other business sections that we'll go over. So why don't we start with Rick? Rick, I know you don't have slides, and I believe that he is not able to see video, but hopefully he can at least talk to us through audio. So Rick, do you want to talk about your use case? I know he's in the participant list. If not, Alt, would you like to come up and talk about your use case? So I was fortunate enough to meet Alt at the ICANN meeting a couple of weeks ago. And he actually is doing something that is very akin to what Jacques is doing for client IDs. Do you know where the refresh button is for slides? I never remember. Give us 1 second while I pull up his slides. It was a last minute addition. There we go. I think I'm going to have to screen share because it is not doing it like it should. So we can go through all of your slides
Yep.
too.
Okay.
So, okay. Let me, almost there. Okay, go ahead. So Alt's going to talk about his research project at your university. Why don't you give a brief introduction of who you are and what you started with, and then go for it.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Wataru Old from Keio University. First of all, thank you, Wes, for giving me this opportunity. Let me explain about my research, mutual declaration mechanism of multi-provider relationship. Thank you. Sorry, thank you. For trusted web services. And next. Yeah, okay, and the next slide, please. So what M2DMAT, my research does, my research purpose is to declare and verify of the redirection relationship of multiple service providers' web services. And my research contribution is to create a lightweight, self-manageable declaration of trust using digital signature of opponent TL's public keys. And I use the approach of the declaration of relationship using DNSSEC sign zone and a mutual declaration by related service providers. Please, next slide. Okay, let me explain about the current situation of the web security. Currently, web security of web is based on the host integrity assurance by the TLS server certificate. And on the other hand, backend structure is being more and more complex, resulting in composing a single web service over the multiple service providers. So in this slide, we have the EC side on the left side, and we have payments processor side on the right side. So you go to the EC side and you press the go to checkout button, then you will be redirected to the payment side, which is you don't know who is running the actual payment side. It is separate from the EC side domains, and you are required to enter your credit card numbers or 3D secure passcode and IDs. And if you enter everything, and you will be magically redirected back to the EC side. But how do you know actually this EC side and the payment side is related in the context of a business? We don't know. We can check each host integrity by using a TLS, but we cannot know how the relationship of each host. So next slide, please. So I generalized these problems. The one is the host integrity provided by TLS is not always same as the service integrity. I call service integrity as the entire service, which is composed of multiple service providers like EC side and payment side. And second, TLS only assures the host integrity. And next, please. So we defined some requirements against this kind of thread model and the system requirements. And next, please. And also a requirement against feasibility and the scalability for the site, web service, like using multiple front-end servers, or the using multiple more than 3 service providers. Next, please. So this is the architectural view of our proposal M2DMAT. So we at first in this slide pay1.net and ec1.com zone ec1.com is have some kind of contract, and they also pay ec2.com and pay2.net is also have some kind of contract, and they first exchange their TLS public key, and they mutually sign the opponent's TLS public key using the own TLS private key, and they putting it back, and they publishing that signature into as the DNS record on the DNSSEC protected DNS zone, so the end user can easily confirm and obtain, verify the each site's relationship using the DNSSEC and that DNSSEC protected signature. So next slide, please. And this is the brief sequence image of the registration of the signature. So at first, we have implemented MRDA, mutual relation declaration agent, to and run MRDA on both service provider side, so that they can authenticate each other. And next, please. And they exchange their public keys and sign each other's public key with own private keys, and publish it on the DNS server. And next, please. So this is the actual record we used in the experiment. We put the signature on the domain name and under the domain name of the destination web address ._m2dmart original redirect original web server domain name, and this is the text type RR, and we also included the sign FQDN and the sign target FQDN into the RR data. So this is the brief explanation of my research. If you have any comments or QAs.
Thank you very much. So this is not two things. One, this is not using Dane at the moment. We'll get back to that in a second. The other thing is this is not client side, it's more server side, but it was very related to Dane, and we're really the only current active Dane working group, and I thought this would be of interest to the audience. Did you look into using TLSA records, or why were you using text records would be one question I have.
This is the actual signature. So Dane used the hash of the public key, but the in our research, we cannot hash the signature itself, because if we hash it, the user cannot verify the signature. So we actually considered about using a TLSA, like hashing it, because it's more short. It could be more short resource record. So, but we cannot use the hashed signature. So we decided to use text record.
Okay. Thank you. Victor?
quick comment, if everybody can hear me. I'm very puzzled as to why you want servers to sign the other server's public key. This is rather unmanageable because it removes the ability of the peer operator to update their key independently of the other party they're related to. It seems sufficient, given that both sides are going to use DNSSEC, to just assert the relationship. I don't see any need for covering key material in these records. Can you explain why the keys need to be attested by somebody who is not in control of the key?
Sorry, the first one is the why use TLS public key, right?
So he was asking why you need to have one server. Go ahead.
Yeah, why is it that, let's say, company A wants to publish a record that specifies the key of company B? Wouldn't you instead say, I do business with company B, and you can look up company B's keys in their DNS, DNSSEC verified, maybe even using TLS-8 records.
Okay, it's because it's about the relationship of the service provider. They are actually the different entities in the business context, but from the end user's point of view, they are all just a single web service. So they should be cooperate they should cooperate to express the entire web service, not as the separate companies.
Okay, thank you, Victor. I see you're back
Yes,
in the queue at the end. Okay, so we'll let Amir go first.
Thank you for this presentation. So I have a question. If you trust the TLS certificate,
Amir, you're a little quiet. Can you speak a little bit louder, please?
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll try to be a little bit louder. Does it sound better?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. If you trust the TLS certificate on the origin side, on like the host side, on the example you gave, and that website authenticated with TLS is pointing you at another business that they have a relationship with, how does this kind of like improve, I guess, as an end user, my trust towards that versus just like, okay, that website has a link to that website is behind HTTPS, they clearly have a relationship in that way. What does this kind of get us that doesn't?
I'm sorry, I don't get your point.
Well, actually, it was the same question I had, so I put myself in the queue, but I'll say the same thing he did in a different way. It's very difficult to show a user when something is not there. So, this would help to know that you are getting to the right payment site, right? That you're not going to the wrong one. But how do you know whether when there is no link at all, when there is no link, then you have no way to really tell the user that there should be one, right?
Yeah, actually, that is the one point I need to more do something for this. Actually, I have currently not yet implemented that kind of something to something to do with the such situations. So I know that DANCE has the such kind of the document written on the on such situations. So I think I can use the same approach, like creating a new field on the TLS implementation. So, but currently we don't have the any anything to deal with that such situation.
Okay, thank you. The entire web industry has battled the same problem. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Victor, you have another comment?
I guess I'm still trying to explain why the keys should be in these attestations, but perhaps by email or by other means.
Yeah,
I'm not
I think
sure
that,
it's possible to do here now.
okay, that's a fair comment. Maybe you can write him later then. So, okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, so has Ole made it, or Rick? No, and Michael, right?
Yeah, but Michael might have gone to sleep.
Michael didn't wake up.
I think he's out of the participants list. And Ole is not in there.
So that's
I think we're done then, right? All right. I think, unfortunately, with sleeping participants and and missing participants, I think that we are going to conclude today. We will give it a chance for any other business. There are lots of use cases that have been discussed in multiple places. Jacques actually gave a great presentation at ICANN in the DNSX Symposium about how he is doing things with Dane to link things like national driver's license and things, so that companies and countries and other organizations can verify somebody else's driver's license using TLSA records, which is an interesting form of Dane client-to-client type verification mechanism. Anybody else have any topics they want to bring up today at the microphone? Otherwise, we will call it good for the day. John.
Yeah, John Levine. Since we seem to have lots of free time, I noticed in the architecture document there's a hole for what to say about mail. And if you want, I can give you some suggestions about what you should say about mail, which is actually quite simple.
Can you give those suggestions in the form of text and pull requests?
Yes, but why don't I summarize what I'm going to say just in case somebody hates it?
Please.
Okay. There's actually two overlapping protocols. There's submission and there's SMTP. And the key difference between them is that with submission, you know who you're talking to, and with SMTP, you don't. So, and it turns out people have been using client certificates to authenticate for submission for decades. And so the use cases they suggest both of submitting of validating the certificate directly and of validating via the signer certificate are well established in the mail world, and doing them through Dane makes perfect sense. Okay, the other thing is it sort of waves its hands about, well, maybe you could use it for SMTP. And the answer is, in general, you couldn't. There's some really niche cases, like basically where you're using SMTP as a tunnel from like a branch office to the main office to get stuff to the main server. So there's a little niche there. So again, normally people use a VPN, but if you hate VPNs or something, using a client certificate to basically to do a mail VPN would work too.
So why don't you stay there, because Victor has a question for you.
Hi, Victor.
So, in fact, I believe you're missing part of the use case. And I've heard actual requests from users for the thing that client certificates in SMTP can fill, which is that some organizations actually want to know that mail from a particular business partner is actually coming at the sort of transport layer from one of the exit nodes that's supposed to be contacting them. They want the client identity for permissioning, for integrity, anti-spam, whatever, but they want to know who the client is. And they certainly also give clients the opportunity to present a positive identity at the transport layer, so that the reputation can be determined via a dynamically presented client certificate. If you have one, present it. If we have a reputation for you, we'll apply it.
So it's sort of like SPF certificate, so it really works.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
so there's interest in that. I know how to implement it. I haven't implemented it yet. It hasn't been a priority for me. But if enough people show up on the postfix users list and say we really need it, it's not difficult to implement, especially once the dance documents mature.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, I mean, the scaling properties are horrible, but I could easily imagine if you had a handful of business partners knowing with confidence that you're not from your lawyer.
So
would be
the
useful.
scaling is fine. At the very least, you get an audit trail. You don't need any scaling. You know, if a client comes in and says, my Dane record is published at X, and presents a certificate that matches the Dane record at X, we can now assign him a DNS identity.
You know, I was more thinking of the scaling of like, no, I was more thinking of the scaling of like, once you know it's X, what do you do about it?
Well, at the very least, you can log it, and then it's in your audit trail.
Yeah.
But you may
anyway,
be able to, in fact, say, you know, for my purposes, mail from my business partner must come with verified client credentials. I will refuse mail from business partner X unless it does so, and that doesn't scale beyond the specific relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now we've reinvented DMARC, but yeah, I can make a pull request for that. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you, both of you. Anybody else have topics for any other business section of this meeting? All right. I think we will call that good. Thank you, everybody, for attending today's dance, and we will see you in San Francisco with hopefully more awake participants.